Good evening and welcome to The Story. I'm Evan Watson. This week on the show, we've showed you the people feeling the effects of federal immigration crackdowns on American farms. The owners of agriculture businesses, the people, some undocumented, doing the work. The third and final part of our Harvest Under Pressure series is our big story tonight. Tensions over immigration enforcement are escalating across the country, including here in the Northwest. Some Washington leaders are doubling down on sanctuary laws, while others say they're ready to defy them. As Sharon Yu tells us, communities are feeling the pressure.
Nestled in the heart of Yakima Valley, the city of Sunnyside proudly celebrates its Mexican heritage. But when ICE came to town in January, fear gripped this community where 90% of its residents are Hispanic. This video shows the reality. Agents arresting someone at a grocery store parking lot. Here, agents pull over a man they thought matched someone they were looking for.
What's your name, sir?
It's okay, babe.
The city froze in fear.
Do you want to say something?
When Sunnyside city leaders called a press conference to calm residents' nerves, an unwelcome visitor arrived.
My name is Martin Alvarado. I'm a bounty hunter by trade.
There was a gentleman that showed up to the press conference in a mask.
What part of illegal don't you understand?
City manager Mike Gonzalez stepped in when the confrontation heated up.
It's time for you to be quiet and leave.
Why? Because I'm telling the truth?
Because you don't even have the cojones to wear take off the mask, bro. That's why. It is my problem.
Gonzalez explains why he reacted so strongly.
There's not a family in this community that hasn't been touched by this issue or, hasn't had a family member that's come and is undocumented.
Sunnyside doesn't call itself a sanctuary city, but it follows state law that prevents any local agencies from helping federal immigration agents.
We're not going to help ICE with anything. That's the stance that we have to take because the state government has taken that stance, and we're taking that directive from the governor's office.
But not all jurisdictions embrace that state law.
But in my humble opinion, the sanctuary laws in this state are unconstitutional.
Klickitat County Sheriff Bob Songer has eagerly waited for ICE to call.
And I'm a little disappointed. I figured it'd reach out to me. I made it very clear I would be on speed dial for them if they were interested.
Songer pledges allegiance to federal law over state directives.
That's an unconstitutional law, in my opinion. They are saying, as a sheriff, as a law enforcement officer, that I'm not even allowed to ask an individual if they're illegal.
His solution for undocumented immigrants?
Self-deport, so they can come back into the country legally.
Legal immigration requires employers willing to handle paperwork and pay fees, or sponsors who can help immigrants navigate the system. Northwest Immigrant Rights Project's Malu Chavez says the process isn't simple.
They may not have the U.S. citizen or lawful permanent resident family member who can petition for them. They may not be a victim of a crime. They may not fear persecution if they were to be deported.
This is where the good food is right here, right? This is the spot, huh?
Back in Sunnyside, Gonzalez says he's relieved to see the community out celebrating Cinco de Mayo at the city's festival.
When ICE came to town, they stopped going to our businesses. Our grocery stores were empty. Our merchants were starting to get worried. So, that's the direct impact that some of this political rhetoric has on our communities.
According to this executive order, removing all undocumented immigrants from Washington would cost the state $14.5 billion in economic activity, $6.4 billion in gross revenue, and eliminate approximately 71,000 jobs.
Hey, ¿cómo estás? ¿Cómo haces? Bien. Bien.
Despite Sunnyside's unofficial sanctuary status, Gonzalez says immigration isn't a political issue for him.
The stance that our state is taking, I agree with, and the interesting thing is that I am a registered Republican and very moderate. So, believe me, I've taken shots from the right.
And the Constitution laws of the state of Washington.
Labels don't define Sheriff Bob Songer either.
In 1990, I ran for sheriff in Clark County as a Democrat.
Good. Well, Mike Gonzalez, city manager.
Both leaders show in a region where immigration debates often split along party lines, the lines between red and blue blur. And the real story of Eastern Washington is one of people, not politics.
Yet another person has been detained after their immigration hearing in Portland, and this time it was captured on camera. The video taken by Tristan Edwards Wednesday morning shows a man being taken away from his car in downtown Portland and moved into a black SUV by Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents. This is the 5th known detainment of an asylum seeker in Portland following an immigration hearing. Today, Celine Stevens spoke with a couple who witnessed this all go down. Celine, how did that couple come across this situation?
Evan, so it was a husband and wife on their way to work. They were both attorneys. They were coming down right here along 2nd Avenue and Main Street when they saw what was going on. Edwards hopped out the car, saw they were ICE agents, and started recording, and continued all the way through them taking that man out of his car and placing him in that black SUV.
Understood. What do you know about the man who was detained here?
So not much. He came to the United States back in September 2023. He's from Colombia. It's also worth noting that it's easier to detain those that have been in the United States for less than 2 years. He's also an asylum seeker and was at court trying to consolidate his case with his mother's when all this happened. And obviously, despite his case being continued, he was still detained after that hearing.
I understand you talked with his attorney as well. What did she have to say about why he was targeted by ICE?
So she says that an agent told her that he had missed some check-ins. She said she was able to provide evidence that he had not missed check-ins and that even if he did, that's something that would have been brought up in court. She says the agent then said that it was due to enforcement priorities. However, Martinez says that her client is now being held in a detention facility in Tacoma. I've reached out to ICE to find out more information about this, but I have not yet heard back.
Important reporting. Thank you, Celine. Portland City Council has approved an $8.6 billion budget for the upcoming year. The spending package, the first under Portland's new form of government and an expanded 12-person city council. The budget isn't too dramatically different from what Mayor Wilson proposed earlier this spring. The biggest cuts affecting the Parks Bureau and permitting departments. The budget advances Wilson's plan to create 1,500 new shelter beds as part of a promise to end unsheltered homelessness by December. Councilmember Eric Zimmerman saying he's concerned with how much the city is sending to the county for joint homeless services, and now's the time for results.
I think it was right of us to approve it, but it is an area that we should have great concern and great oversight in the future about if that's going to be the continued path. And so, Mayor, we've funded your shelter plan. It is now your time to deliver. Don't let us down.
Council members made changes that helped avoid most major cuts to parks maintenance. Some layoffs and temporary funding sources help make up the city's deficit. Portland residents will also pay more for Uber and Lyft rides, parking, recreation fees, leaf removal, and other city services.
I'm sorry to those whose jobs we couldn't save. I do want to point out we achieved a lot of really important things. We invested in parks maintenance and safety, invested in emergency management, and reversed many of the years of cuts.
This budget process has been hard and messy, but that mess was democracy in action. I am proud that Portlanders witnessed our different opinions play out in public because that tension caused by deep, diverse representation is good, actually.
Council unanimously approved the budget, but that doesn't mean the process developed without tension. Here's Dan Ryan criticizing the more liberal members on the council and warning that people will move away.
Why should they remain in a city that the parks budget is artificially pitted against the police budget when virtually everyone wants both? This council successfully planted a false narrative to the public. Why?
Most council members acknowledged that the budget didn't change much from Wilson's initial proposal. They said in future years they'll have more time to shape it.
I am so happy for the people who called our office, who wrote us letters, who sent us emails, who texted us and said we're off base or we're doing the right thing. This is all so new to us. But stick with us because I guarantee you it is going to be better going forward.
And we will have ample time to develop and refine our amendments, hopefully send some of them through committees. I think that if we do that, then we will have fewer mistakes, less confusion, and fewer hard feelings.
What did you think about this budget process, the first under a 12-person council? Did it feel any different to you from past years? Any important achievements or big misses in funding? Let us know. Email the story at kgw.com or call and leave a voicemail, 503-226-5090. Still ahead, lawmakers have about 10 days left until the end of the session. When it comes to funding the fight against wildfires, there have been a lot of ideas, but which ones are actually making progress? We'll take a look when the story returns. This afternoon in Columbia County, a brush fire forced some people in nearby businesses and homes in St. Helens to evacuate. The fire started just outside city limits near Railroad Avenue and 1st Street. The fire chief says when crews got there, it was about a quarter acre in size. The flames spread to about 3 to 5 acres before firefighters got it under control. People who evacuated are now being let back into their homes. Investigators aren't sure exactly how the fire started, but they say they know it was human caused. It's another incident that underscores the urgency of wildfire season, now well underway. But Oregon's legislative session ends in just over a week, and lawmakers still have not figured out a way to pay for the costs of fighting fires. You'll remember last year, Governor Tina Kotek had to call a special session because the Department of Forestry ran out of money. That wildfire season broke records for the size and cost of the fires. A lot of the ideas have been thrown around this session, but so far, none of them have made it across the finish line. This week, a new plan, a tax on nicotine products, 65 cents per container to raise about $30 million. It was sponsored by Democratic Senator Anthony Broadman from Central Oregon.
You know, for roughly a penny per milligram, we can stop fires. For, you know, every can, if this were to pass, this small tax, which is not tax, this isn't tax at all right now, could, you know, help keep my community in Central Oregon and communities across the state safe from wildfire. And really every dollar we spend now on mitigation, preparation, fuels reduction is less money that we're going to spend on suppression in the future.
Their proposal is an amendment to House Bill 3940, which would have added a surcharge onto bottle and can deposits to pay for wildfires. This amendment diverts that surcharge into a tax on nicotine instead. It also proposes drawing on interest gained from the state's rainy day fund. Senator Broadman says every lawmaker understands the need.
We're on our second conflagration of the year, which is early. We're setting records we don't want to be setting in terms of wildfire. We've lost so many homes already, and this is the responsibility of all Oregonians to lean in and make sure that we're ready for wildfire, that we're doing the mitigation, the fuels reduction, the structure hardening, the landscape resilience that's necessary, and to do all that, we need new revenue.
Since this would be a new tax, it would have to get 3/5 approval from both the House and the Senate to pass. Democrats have just enough on their side if everyone votes for it. The bill had a work session this afternoon where lawmakers voted to move it forward. Other ideas are still on the table. One proposed by Senator Jeff Golden would divert $1 billion from the state's kicker rebate into a high-yield account and use the interest on that account as a renewable fund for wildfire season. His latest proposal would send the rest of the kicker back to taxpayers, about $650 million, but only to those making less than $95,000 a year. That vote would require 2/3 of the lawmakers to support it, meaning some Republicans would have to join in. Governor Kotek said this week that she does not think the lawmakers have the votes. One more bill, Senate Joint Resolution 11, would set aside money from the state's lottery to fight fires. It would be a constitutional amendment brought to voters next year. Neither of the bills has been scheduled for a vote. Governor Kotek says she doesn't think lawmakers are going to figure out a long-term solution this session.
Let's do what we can this biennium and then keep working on a long-term funding stream. I wish we had one identified. We're not there this session. I'm not going to cry about it, but I want more money for the biennium so we can have these things addressed, even if it's one time.
One-time funding, that is. Meanwhile, in Idaho, artificial intelligence is helping detect wildfires across that state. Fire agencies are using dozens of AI-powered cameras to help protect the state's forests. Think of them as high-tech lookout towers. Jude Binkley has a look at how it works.
As Idaho enters the heat of wildfire season.
Just a few weeks ago, we had a few fires that were spotted that would have probably gone a day or two without detection if it wasn't for the cameras.
A new piece of technology is helping crews get to fires minutes after they spark.
We're up to about 25 to 30 cameras statewide that are all using AI to get the dispatch centers and fire managers the alerts when they need them.
The Idaho Department of Lands has been setting up AI wildfire detection cameras across the state, mostly in North Idaho. The cameras rotate 360 degrees, constantly scanning the horizon while AI analyzes the images for signs of smoke.
The AI has gotten better and better, and so it can actually say, you know, this is not smoke, this is actually just a dusty road that somebody's driving on, versus this one is exactly how it looks, and this one is actually smoke.
These cameras are scanning the landscape 24/7, and so we've started seeing an uptick in fire reports well after dark.
When a camera spots smoke, it alerts dispatch and local fire agencies like the Clearwater Potlatch Timber Protective Association, who say the new tech has helped them put out fires right after they start.
We can send resources out to it right then, rather than that fire burning for another 6 or 7 hours possibly before somebody sees it and reports it.
A new technology.
This is just that next evolution.
Giving crews an upper hand when every second counts.
That earlier detection of those incidents allows us to put out those fires when they're small. You know, they're much safer, it's more cost effective. It allows our resources to be more available for additional initial attack activity that we may have on the district.
When we come back, it's a day to celebrate freedom and Black excellence here in the Northwest and across the country. We'll show you how people are celebrating and what they say still needs to be done in the fight against racism. We'll be right back. KGW is teaming up with Safeway and Albertsons again this year to bag summer hunger. When schools close for the summer, students lose access to daily meals, and that puts some local kids at risk of food insecurity. You can make a difference by donating cash or purchasing a pre-filled bag of groceries at Safeway and Albertsons stores. All donations go directly to families in need. To learn more, check out bagsummerhunger.com or kgw.com.
Juneteenth is not just, a Black event or a Black celebration of freedom. It is actually a community gathering where everyone can celebrate the freedom of Black people. So I love that here, where everyone's all together and it's not just, it's just their thing. No, it's our thing.
Today is June 19th, also known as Juneteenth. It's a federal holiday that commemorates the emancipation of enslaved African Americans. We're noting several celebrations in Portland today, including one at the Miracles Club in Northeast Portland, where artists like Eloise dance showcased handmade creations with their culture top of mind. She says she's glad to see more Juneteenth celebrations in the Rose City.
And we're still not completely free because we're still at a war right now. You know, we still got things going on right now. It seems like we're forever fighting for something. But I do know that people have power.
That's Eloise Dance right there. The executive director of the Miracles Club says Juneteenth is a celebration of Black culture, but everyone is welcome.
Because a lot of people don't even know what this is about. They have no idea. Well, Juneteenth, what's Juneteenth? Especially, the privileged culture. They have no idea. Some folks do, but some don't even wish to know. But we know because we were enslaved for over 300 years, and now we've been unenslaved. We still have a lot of hurdles to still go, and there's a lot of racism that still happens, but it doesn't mean that we're not working on clarifying and dismantling all of that.
Oregon has held Juneteenth celebrations since 1945. The 53rd annual Juneteenth Oregon Parade is Saturday at Lillis Albina Park. So how did we get here? Juneteenth only became a federal holiday a few years ago, but it's been celebrated in communities across the country since the end of the Civil War, when slaves in Texas learned they'd been freed. After 4 bloody years, the Union defeated the Confederacy to win the Civil War and abolish slavery in April 1865. There were nearly 4 million slaves in the U.S. at that time. Union armies began marching through the southern states, freeing thousands of slaves each day. The news took months to reach Texas, the westernmost state in the Confederacy. On June 19, 1865, Major General Gordon Granger and 2,000 Union troops rode into Galveston, Texas, and told slaves of their freedom. The people of Texas are informed that, in accordance with a proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free. This involves an absolute equality of personal rights and rights of property between former masters and slaves. Granger's words spread through Texas. All at once, slaves found out the war was over and they were free. Their joyous, spontaneous celebration gave birth to Juneteenth. Juneteenth, a combination of the words June and 19th, commemorates when the last enslaved people in the South were finally set free. Many slaves were met with violence or death when they tried to leave, yet the promise of freedom extinguished fear and fueled generations of indestructible people. Former slaves gathered on Juneteenth the next year, and the year after that. And over the decades, Black communities observed the holiday with festive family gatherings, colorful parades, and bountiful barbecues. Texas became the first state to make Juneteenth an official holiday in 1980. Since then, all 50 states and D.C. also recognized the day. In 2021, President Joe Biden signed a new law commemorating June 19th as Juneteenth National Independence Day. Juneteenth, a celebration of independence, the day all Americans were truly free. We want to know, do you, your family, your friends, anyone have Juneteenth traditions or celebrations that you've been doing? Maybe something that you've just picked up on in the last couple of years since it became a federal holiday. Maybe something once you got this day officially off work because it became a federal holiday. Let us know here at The Story. Thanks for watching tonight. That is the end of our show. If you ever miss an episode of The Story at 6:30, we do re-air that episode at 8:30 and 10:30 p.m. over on our TV and streaming app, KGW+. It would also run there the next day at 11:30 in the morning. You can download the free KGW Plus app right now. It's on Roku, Apple TV, and Fire TV. That is it for us tonight. I will be back with you for one more night tomorrow night right here on The Story. Until then, stay safe. Have a great time celebrating Juneteenth if you have something planned tonight, and we'll see you tomorrow.